Oh, I put a link to a YouTube short video of someone saying that we need a Russian policy. People had the words policy used to them. And how, in other words, they have it declassified for themselves. In other words, aren't there a gang of eight where even the senators have things classified for themselves? So wouldn't there be all kind of illusions? Plus, just a whole bunch of countries in the news together. They have roles on and off campuses here together, where they have roles with differences brackets. Now, so where the individual voice of leaders are victims, they're simultaneously, in other words, when they're addressing groups' rights, they're leaving out how nature and how the breaching method employed that. And this is relative to where and how the breaching method measures and maintains other communicated for our countries, not just America's country, not just America's founders, but others being has been communicated for our founders than when they communicated for themselves. They communicated not to leave out how what they said was measured and maintained. Collusions against the Constitution unabridged, and hyper additionally why, where, and how. We need to appreciate how we are rights. There are too numerous to have to list them. And the sequence shifts and the collusions with the different, this breaching method showed modern names, A through Z, our countries A through Z, how to read the law, how to speak about crimes, as it had them all roles with its predicate acts with facts method, singular. And it showed them how to be methods that could cover that up as long as they did it exactly the way it needed and at law locations to keep individuals, groups, and together all humanity voices needed to collusions blaming other things, others, ourselves, for example, historically for things that America's founders communicated for us to blame on the human fact achieving nature breaching method. Russians and Americans, people from Ukraine, and the agencies, a whole bunch of people tied to former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and tied to his daughter, a daughter of a co-defendant of his, John LeConte, is involved with Don LeConte with about identity thefts, fraud, slanders, and various natures of predicate acts with people with the news also at corners of streets from the old Weathersfield founding locations all the way to Central Connecticut State University, also involved with them before and after the World Trade Center attack, as Connecticut's roles with it, and with names with Washington, D.C. involved with it, and with planting evidences, predicate acts, identity theft, fraud, slanders with news locations, journalists, their family members, the people tied to them. See, this breaching method used already remotely, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw, names on all sides of cases, their sources, the news at the same time, their lawyers, the same thing with the court, the different titles and things like that, natures of roles with the courts. There are proofs that they have people there who are unmarked police forms, who are also ones involved. Further, with the police confessions and demonstrations on my streets since I was a kid with people from other areas. They are increasingly involved with interbranch and foreign time collusions also with overt criminal enterprises and private ones. People with associated with databases and simultaneously at the same time, people involved with campuses of all ages and natures. Increasingly, people with UConn campuses involved with the name Violet and a Kolvinskis are involved with people with the name, a whole bunch of people tied to the name O'Brien too. And so they're starting fights. These are people that grew up near me, and people in other words, they're leaving out the foreign names and the police and courts forging and switching names and refusing to get on paper because they lie about what they think about what people say on social media because that's recorded. They were already shown they needed to hide live progressions and how they could get away with it. They've been replacing what's actually digitally recorded, and they have had mass self-guided rules. Increasingly with forensics, writing forensics is a place in Connecticut that has rules too, with a whole bunch of people at UConn and tied to Central Connecticut State University on all sides of it are involved with all kinds of scams and natures of organized crimes with the intelligence next to Harvard Hospital and along Franklin Avenue, which goes right by the state corrections offices, which is increasingly involved with people with Washington, D.C., involved with two speech class teachers I have. that are increasingly involved with people with all sides of criminal and civil cases, the court's names, and the news at the same time, and the people with the depositions planting fake things in databases, as rules the whole predicate acts methods, which is also these are people with digital crimes with people I don't even know at all. I never was around them. Like a Joshua Julian had been influenced to pretend other with the intelligence and former retired police chiefs and people associated with him and them and planting predicate acts on all sides of my house. Like on Hotmail. These are people involved with the the Facebook pages of the Britain Spirit Court and of Wethersfield Police